Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pascal Dennis Music Podcast. My name is Levi. I'm the social media content creator and videographer. Pascal, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Levi. I'm Pascal Dennis. I'm a songwriter, a composer, an engineer, an author, and most important, I'm a family man. I'm a father and a husband. I am co-leader of the Crazy Angels band, along with David Logan, my co-conspirator, who you will meet in upcoming podcasts. Our goal with this podcast is to create a community, hopefully of creators, of musicians, of composers, of producers, of poets, of writers, people that are interested in how to collaborate internationally with like-minded people and how to create music and art that lasts. So we'll tell you about our process and about our band, and hopefully it'll be interesting for you all.
So, who are the members of the Crazy Angels band? And you talked about David Logan. Who is he?
So David Logan is our producer and our drummer, and he is the composer and the teacher in some of the best music schools in Europe. Our band also includes the great Davide Sambrota, our keyboardist, who is utterly marvelous. Luca Camerata is on guitar, and you can hear his superb stylings on all four of our records. Marco Bonelli is our saxophone player, and he too is an all-star. And our newest member is the marvelous Giulio Rosatelli, whose work is so good that I'm specifically writing for that marvelous guitar. So it's the six of us. I'm the composer, vocalist. I play a little bit of guitar and piano, but not much because our players are outstanding geniuses in their own right.
Cool. When did you decide you wanted to work on music again?
Well, gosh, almost 25 years passed, and David went to Hollywood and became a successful producer in TV, worked on many famous shows. I started a company and I started a family. And my company was about improving, helping companies improve how they worked, safety, quality, delivery. And that took me around the world. And I couldn't stop writing. So whenever I had a moment, I would take out my notebook and I would write down what I was seeing, what I was feeling. At the end of the day, I always would be in a restaurant or a bar or in my hotel room, and I'd just be writing in my journal what I had experienced. It could be lyrics, it could be a scene from a novel, it could be a poem. And I always kept playing the guitar, playing the piano, trying to get better. I just couldn't stop. But I never thought my songs would be produced until the pandemic, this awful event turned out to be have a silver lining, and it caused me to reach out to David Logan and to say, David, I've got a lot more time, and I've been working on my old songs, and they've gotten better.
Speak of the devil.
Speak of the devil, here he is. This a magical appearance, just as he magically appeared back into my life, gosh, 3.5 years ago. And as I said, David, I would you be available to work together again? My songs have gotten a lot better.
He said, I remember precisely, hey, are you still recording and producing musicians? And if you're not, you know someone who is? Yeah, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. And so ironically, this terrible pandemic had the silver lining of bringing David and I back together. And for me, it gave me the gift of time. And that's what I'd always lacked. So now suddenly I didn't have to travel, and I could work 15 hours a day on songs, and that's what it takes. And my songs kept getting better, and I had the gift of this wonderful coach. So the back and forth just allowed me to get to a new level. So something kind of miraculous happened. And in the last 3 years, I've written 150 songs, basically a new song every week. And I'm writing better than I can write. So I don't know who's doing the writing. I'm not able to write these songs, but somehow right. We have a standing joke, which will come up in the podcast, I'm sure. The standing joke is that there are 3 little aliens, Ziggy, Spike, and Lester, that are sending these songs from Alpha Centauri, and I'm simply recording them. I'm the conduit. I'm a vessel, and a conduit.
There you go. He's all of it. Yeah, it's amazing. And I really like, I don't know where all the material comes from. I really don't. And Pascal is just a true artist in every sense of the word. And I admire it, I mean, I'm an artist in a very, very different way. I'm an artist as a composer and as a producer, which is a whole different kind of art. But, there's the heart of a poet, and I don't have that. And he does have that. And just some of the absolute beauty of the imagery of his lyrics. I sometimes just find myself thinking, because I know these songs, after Pascal and maybe his family, maybe I know them. Well, I think I know them better because I'm working on them every single damn day. And the biggest problem we have, and by the way, to finish my point, I find myself often having sort of visual imagery of some of his lyrics. I just imagine them sometimes, or like I'll be doing something in the kitchen, something as simple as like maybe cutting garlic or something. And then I'll look over and then I'll think about sort of one of the characters in his songs. And it's really an interesting thing. But I was going to say something and I completely forgot the other point I was making, but
you were cutting garlic. It was garlic.
Before that, when I was talking about
imagery and garlic.
Imagery and garlic, and then there was another point, but about knowing the songs, and then now see it's bothering me, and I'll have to change subject because hopefully it'll come back later. The point is he is a real true artist in every sense, and yeah, like I said, I don't have that particular gift. I mean, I am a singer songwriter myself, but my lyrics are very, very much shallow, I guess you could say, or one-dimensional, and the depth of his lyrics are always just completely profound, and I really don't know how he comes up with it. And the answer is it's because he's the real deal. He's a real artist, and he's not afraid to speak his mind. And when he's not sure about something, and this is where my job is important, he asks me. He's like, you know what? I'm not sure about this. Can I say that? I'm like, dude, you're a fucking artist. You can say whatever you want.
Well,
you are indemnified.
Here is another critical element of our process, Levi. So David comes up with these incredible titles. So he's a true maestro of the titles. So he just gave me another title, Freddie Garlic and the Shangri-Las. It's going to be about a band, Freddie Garlic and the Shangri-Las. That'll be a song, God willing. See? Yes.
D is for dynamite, which is what you are to me.
D is for dynamite, which is what you are to me.
Or you could also, you could write a whole song just about the letter D. The Bare Naked Ladies did this. They had a song called A, and it was literally all the things about A. So I thought we can copy that idea with D. And so why not? D is for David, the guy who produces me. D is for danger, which is what you are to me. D is for dynamite, which is, I don't know, what I mean? It just.
So you see, Levi, that's three song ideas. That's how we do it all the time.
We do this every week. I must come up with at least one good title. Sometimes I do two. And by the way, I was literally going to text you that. And occasionally I do. I'll send him a text just being like, song title, not often, it's usually our meetings. But that I thought the other day, and I was going to text you, but then I thought, I'll wait for the podcast. So
I'm going to get my notebook and just give you some examples. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard, but I got to record with a live orchestra this summer, 53-piece real orchestra for video game. It's like, yeah, it was incredible.
Insane.
But
Cool.
it was insane. Yeah. It was like, yeah, thanks, man. It's a lot of hard work to get that gig, but paid off. So, and actually Pascal and I have been discussing about going to Skopje and doing one of his songs with a live orchestra.
Yep.
They're a very good orchestra and they're not horribly expensive. They're fairly reasonable. So we've been talking about that. We were thinking of doing one of his older songs from the first album. Only the Spotlight Remains, because it's such a gorgeous string arrangement.
Yes.
But I kind of want to do a new song. I don't necessarily want to go back to an old song, although I guess if we were to go to Skopje, we would book a couple hours and they could definitely get it done.
Yep.
They generally record about, let's see, what was it again? It was 6 minutes for each hour. So they'll do 6 minutes of orchestral music in 1 hour. So yeah, we could bang out 2 songs each hour. Cause some of them he'll be like, oh, so I got this new song. It's called da 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 da. And I'm like, dude, that's amazing. That's a great title. He's like, yeah, it's yours. I'm like, oh.
Well, here are some of the titles. I've got 3 pages of these, Levi. So the latest ones, Freddie Garlic and the Shangri-Las, which will be about a 1970s R&B band. D is for Dynamite, and That's What You Are to Me. And the third one is the D song. And here are some of the other ones. Texas Two-Step, Misstep, the Steven Spielberg of music. Oh, here's one. I just finished this one, David. I want to play this for you. It's called Linger by the Lost Lagoon. It's a really dark E minor
all right,
piece, which maybe we can do. Stand Up Frankenstein. Here's another new song. I just finished this one. Big Fat Guy with Fluffy Hair, Bothering My Girl. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's part of our process. Just we call it shtick. It's a beautiful Yiddish word. It's a shtick, that
it's like the thing you do. It's the role you play. It's sort of like, it's the way of being in that particular moment. Shtick is like your thing. It's like your act. It's like an act almost, but an authentic one, not like a fake act.
Yeah.
Cool. Pascal, do you ever have disagreements with David?
We have a healthy back and forth. I wouldn't say we have disagreements. I very much believe in going with the flow. And when you're lucky enough to work with someone like David and, the rest of the band, Davide, Luca, Marco, Giulio, they're so good. And David's feedback is so good that I just go with the flow. So, no, I don't think we have disagreements. We have creative back and forth, and
we always dialogue everything. So it's Pascal is a true gentleman, like one of the last of the true. Ooh, the last of the true gentlemen.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down. You see how it works, Levi.
Our authentic act. And authenticity is a very important thing to me. And so, not that he's ever fake, but if he ever is, I just go like this.
He lets me know, boy.
It's the same thing. Like you remember, Levy, because you were my student. And I often would say this, criticizing any student work, and especially if I'm harsh, I always say, remember that if I lie to you, I am cheating you out of the money you pay the school to pay me as an educator. If I lie to you and just tell you what you want to hear and make you feel good, I'm literally cheating you and I'm not helping you. In fact, I'm hurting you. And it's the same thing with Pascal. Like if he very rarely, like if we were to put it on a scale, 100% perfect score being like In My Life by the Beatles, Pascal is always hitting 100. He's always hitting 100.
It's very good.
It's true. No, he is. He's amazing. He's a great songwriter. I mean, look, the Beatles, okay, nobody could ever really be 100. But out of the best we can be compared to the Beatles, he is, how about this? his score of like what he holds himself to. In other words, he holds himself to a standard, you know, and he knows when he's not at the standard. And he'll say, I'm not really sure about this one. I'd really love to get your opinion on it. And if I agree, if I'm like, yeah, you know what, it's not a home run, you know, then we sort of throw it away and we just never think about it again. That maybe happens probably out of 100 songs he's written. Maybe I've rejected 4 or 5, like outright reject.
Mm.
And then, you know, but this idea of the score, right? Yeah, if he bats like an 80 out of 100, I'll tell him like, dude, this is really good, but the hook is a little needs a little bit of work on that. And so it's the same thing. Like if I lie to him, well, then I'm just, you know, I'm cheating him, and I can't do that. And I mean, of course, I'm also one of the last of the gentlemen, and I'm always very polite and kind about the criticism, but I'm very, very firm, and I don't sugarcoat anything. And you know what it is about these albums that we're making? This is another big part of the discussion and the dialogue that we do is about, it's like the tapestry of what the album's going to be. Like we decide, all right, you know what? We've already got this like kind of country song, this tavern drinking song. We have a really good jazz number, but we don't have this. Should we put this on? And that's a very important conversation, right? Because that's what's going to give the overall feeling on these albums is going to come from the songs that you put on the album, you know, and the order of an album is like so unbelievably important. And I feel so bad for your generation, Gen Z, because you didn't grow up with the A and B side, like the Dark Side of the Moon side A versus side B. It's like you had a whole experience on side A, and then on side B, you had a whole other experience. Like you would even decide, like, you know what, I just feel like side B today. I'm just going to go for it, you know? It's like vinyl, you flipped it on the other side, and there was a whole other world. And when people made records back then, they had this in mind, that one side was a different experience than the other. And so I just the other day, I was listening to some great bands from the 80s that I loved. And I'm listening to them on iTunes where it's just like all one after the other. And it's like emotionally, when I heard the song that came after the last one, I felt confused because there wasn't that moment where I had to go and flip the vinyl. It's just like the song came right after the last, you know. So we dialogue about this in the modern age because we don't have side A anymore. We don't have side B. So we usually do, not usually, we always do 16 songs on every record. We sort of think about them in groups of 8, like a side A and a side B, but we think about it in terms of what would be the right word, aesthetic balance and weight. And so this is a very important part of the process, you know?
Cool. Very much so. And each album has a theme, and just building on what David said, I think of music in terms of colors, moon colors and sun colors. And some albums are predominantly sunny albums, like our upcoming record, I think, is pretty funny. Love is a Drug from Hell. But in order to really set off and fully experience the sun colors, you have to have moon colors in there. So it's only by grieving from the belly, the poet said, that you learn. Only from grieving deeply do you learn how to laugh from the belly, you know? So we want to balance the moon and the sun colors. So on the first record, Crazy Angels, it's a moon-colored record. It's about my coming of age in a crazy family and a desperately poor, refugees in Kensington Market. So it's predominantly moon colors, but we have sun colors, and that makes the moon colors more vivid. And so that's a big part of the discussion. It's the back and forth. It's the side A, side B, the textures, the feelings, the emotions. We want to balance them. We want to balance the keys. We want to balance the tempos. We want to balance the genres. And I'm lucky enough to be able to work with David in such a gifted band, so we can do all the different genres. And it was such a gift to me because I love classic country and R&B and bossa nova and big band and classic pop, and the band is so good they can all play that, you know. and make it their own, which is miraculous to me. We can say this is a early 1960s bossa nova, kind of like Jobim and Sinatra used to record, and then the boys will come back, under David's guidance with something astonishing and fresh.
This is also a really amazing thing about our project is that we're employing tons and tons of local musicians here in Rome. I also have some players. It's really funny because in Rome, I teach at a school called San Luis College of Music. And then I have a brass band in San Luis, Missouri, as they call it in Missouri. And so we have a double San Luis connection here. We have a horn section from St. Louis, and then we have all kinds of great players, and this is something I firmly believe in, is hiring student talent. I always do, because I think that I'm very passionate about helping people and being an educator. I'm naturally an educator. And so for me, I feel it's my moral responsibility to not hire session players, but rather hire my students and treat them as session players, and it's a win-win for everybody, really. And so, because the thing is, it is so difficult to build a life as anything in the music industry, and the odds are so stacked against you. I think it's about 0.03% of the people that try actually make a living out of it, and I'm one of those people. And so for 30 years consistently, I've made a living from my music, and teaching usually represents anywhere, depending on the year, can be as high as 50% of my income, but we're normally between 10 and 15% of my income. So, which is great because I don't need the money for to be, teaching. It's like if I lost that gig tomorrow, I would be just fine, and that's the best scenario. So the students that I do choose to welcome into the project are very, very talented people. But they're also fortunate because they're being given an opportunity to work on an international music project, which you don't get to do that every day, Now, true, we're not signed to, Sony BMG or Warner Chappell Music. Not yet.
But our records are as good. Our records are as good as that, and they're going to keep getting better,
They sure are. And I was telling Pascal the other day, I have a new mastering process because I do everything in-house, all in-house, locally sourced, fresh musicians, all my mixing, I do all the mixes here in the studio. I do all the mastering right here. So everything is done. Well, I guess if I'm going to do that, I should turn on my fancy lights while I do that, huh? Oh, look at that. That's better.
Oh, wow.
Hey, look, nicer, no? Prettier. The pretty lights. Anyway, we do everything locally. And honestly, if Warner Chappell did give us a call and say, hey, listen, we're really interested in signing Pascal, he and I would have to have a very long, it's not like we would just accept a deal. I don't think we would necessarily, I think we would be like, all right, well, how does this help us? Does this benefit us right now? And I don't think it would just be so many artists, the dream would be we're getting signed by, Sony BMG. And it's like, if that were to happen to us, we would really have to talk about it. And not only that, we'd have to have a couple of lawyers on our side to
Indeed.
You understand, because if he loses his artistic freedom,
yep,
not doing it. Not for any price. I don't know about you, Pascal, but
I'm exactly with you.
I don't care, and this is something
I don't either.
teach my students all the time. Don't take every deal you get, because great, you've got lots of money, but look what happened to Prince. Poor guy, right?
Yeah. Well, this speaks to our aspiration as a band, and David and I talked about it when we started working together again. So I just wrote it down. What's our aspiration? I want recognition for our band and for our music. I want recognition for David's production, for the skill and beauty of our players, for my songs. I want to tell my family's story going back 100 years. When my grandfather Pascal got off the boat at Ellis Island.
Just like my grandfather, same port, Ellis Island.
Yeah, so that's our aspiration. You'll notice nowhere does it say make a ton of money, get really famous. I don't care. I want to keep making records with this guy and this band until one of us is abducted by aliens.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go. The thing about it is, and I said this to Pascal, I guess when we were doing our second or third album, I said, you realize that this is you're building a legacy now. Like when you make a record in English has several meanings, right? One of which is a record of history. Like a history book is a record. You're making a record. But a record in our case means a recording, right? Yep. So for us, like it's, specifically for Pascal, for his family, like he's leaving a record of his story, and there's literal parts of his story and then figurative parts. So he makes some characters, that even I see myself in, like in Come to Your Window, Sarah, like that's just as much you as it is me. No,
indeed.
And that's the beautiful part about being an artist is that you get to abstract your own personal story. So there's this guy now, I forgot his name, Indian or Pakistani comedian who is like the top pick for the Daily Show host. Like he's a serious comic. And now it comes out that a lot of his stories he tells in his act are not true. So he lied about the stories of his life. But I'm like, well, what the fuck do you think art is, man? Art is, what is it in V for Vendetta? Artists use lies to tell the truth. That is the most brilliant line in all of cinematic history. And I'm sure that guy who wrote that or girl who wrote that screenplay did not come up with that. I mean, I remember my poetry teacher, his name was Michael Delp. And he said, it is always permissible to tell lies in order to gain an emotional truth. So when I hear about this big controversy over this Indian comic, and he's going to be the first Indian comic to host the comedy show, but now they're not going to let him host the comedy show because he lied. Well, what the hell do you think you know what? In my classroom, I tell lies all the time. You know why I do it? I don't do it to be malicious. I enhance parts of the story and outright lie for education so that my students learn something. And so like, it's permissible. Lying is like, we have this whole thing in our culture. Like you can never tell a lie. You're bad if you lie. It's like, no, that's just not true. Every day, most people tell between 1 to 3 lies every day of their freaking life. It's not malicious lies. Like if I lie to my students, it's to help them learn something. So this guy's on stage. He just wants to make people laugh. And it's called a comedy routine or a comedy act because it's an act. Get over it, people. Anyway, Pascal.
I'm with you, man.
He does it beautifully. He tells stories that everybody can relate to. And he actually has, we have this, I'm going to say we, because it's really, the song is about me, Coliseum Blues, right?
Very much.
And it's about my story about what happened to me in Italy, but he changes the characters, he changes, but it's beautiful. And so I think that it's not about me, but it's based on some of the shit that happened to me moving to Italy,
Yeah.
So anyway, it's, artists have this thing called poetic license. And it's like, either we're going to let artists have it or not. And I believe that after music, the highest art form of humanity is comedy. Because think about it. Someone can like a song or not like a song, but it's music. Like how bad it can, but like, the audience doesn't laugh. You are just not funny. It's like there is literally nothing. It's not like, it's like you can have your subjective feelings. Like, I don't think that's funny at all. But if the audience is laughing, that guy's funny.
They say
people feel when something's not authentic. So
say again.
What? People can sense when something or someone is not authentic. Then it's either not funny or the music is just not resonating, right?
Yeah.
Very much. So just building on David's point, so another key aspiration for us, as David said, is to record what it's like to be alive now, truly and honestly, and record it in the right way. So if a song is 8 minutes or 10 minutes and it's a 3-part opera, that's how we'll record it. We're not worried about getting clicks or radio singles. We want to record what it's like. And I genuinely believe that there is an audience for depth, for that kind of total absorption in a song where it becomes like a trance. We talked about the old days where you would have an album side A, then a side B, and it would be entrancing. It'd be Pink Floyd and you'd be totally absorbed. That's what we're trying to create. So we're recording what it's like to be alive now in the right way. It could be 5 minutes, could be 4 minutes, could be 10 minutes, could be 2.5 minutes, but we want to do it in the right way and not compromise. The
thing about that is that's interesting is like, artistically, he does what he does. But sometimes we also, it's not like we're ignoring entirely any commercial aspects, So for example, his song Nicaragua Moon, right, which was also the title of the album.
Yeah.
It was like 4.5-minute song or something like that. But it was such a catchy pop song. And so Pascal and I had this discussion, and he said to me, like, do you think it'd be worth it to like just make a radio single just because it really is like a catchy pop song? And I'm like, yeah, let's just cut out a verse and call it a day. So we cut it from 4.5 to 3.5 minutes, which is really radio, but we kept both, right?
Yeah.
So, we kept both. So we have the full album version, but then we cut a radio single and we sort of discussed like, all right, which set of lyrics would be the easiest to cut? Because it's a horrible thing for a songwriter. It's like, do I cut my right arm or my left arm off?
Yeah.
It's how do you decide?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. So we don't ignore the commercial aspects, but it's certainly not our goal. I mean, look at us. We're two middle-aged men, making pop music. I mean,
But there we're finding an audience. We've got 250,000 plus streams just on Spotify, and our wonderful videos and video clips that you create, Levi, get traction, and often we have delightful surprises, such as the video for Angel in the Snow, which is about Venezuelan refugees in North America, and many friends that have fled the extremist regime of Maduro, etc. And anyhow, we didn't expect that would find an audience, but that wonderful video and the song has got 20,000 streams already, which is kind of a shock, but there is an audience for what we're doing, and that's what we're just going to keep going. Our theory is that people want depth, people want content, they want intelligence, they want to be respected, authenticity, and that's what we're going to keep doing. And what happens. But we're going to keep doing our thing.